Hey, you. You're finally awake.
Welcome back to the channel, you lovely people. We are here with another bottom of the barrel video, and today we are looking at the NES, or the NES, however you want to call it. See, me in Europe, being an Englishman, we called it the NES, but everyone else calls it the NES. So for safety purposes, I'm going to call it the NES. Now, the NES gave us some of the most beloved classics in gaming. Super Mario Bros., The Legend of Zelda, Metroid. But for every gem, there was always a pile of pixelated trash stinking up that cartridge, and today we're diving into 7 of the worst games for the NES, and the ones that tested our patience, fried our retinas, and made us question our childhood decisions of even having a Nintendo. Now, if you do like this and want to hear more, Retro Wars is a free podcast where every week me and a friend talk about the video games we used to play, and there's over 150 free episodes for you to go find wherever you get your podcasts from. And if you want to get actively involved, you can do at patreon.com/Retro Wars for $1 a month, and you get your own additional show called DLC. And the final note before we jump in, remember, this is not the definitive list of the worst games. This is just a selection. If you have ones that I think I need to talk about and have not mentioned, put it in the comments below, and I will add them in, because we can make a part 2, a part 3, a part 4. We will keep going until the cows come home, because the worst games need to be talked about, people. So let's get into it, shall we? 7 of the worst games on the NES. Tag Team Wrestling. Now, Tag Team Wrestling was one of the first wrestling games released on the NES, which meant it had a difficult task of trying to set a precedent for the genre. So I have to be kind of fair to it, but I can still rip it apart for being absolutely poo. In theory, this game should have been fun and engaging. Unfortunately, it ended up being more of a tedious exercise in frustration rather than a celebration of the sport. The basic premise involves using a tag team and taking on a computer-controlled team, simply known as the heel team. The goal is to win all the matches in a single elimination tournament, working with your partner to beat your opponent senseless. Well, theoretically. In execution, the game just bogs down to its bizarre combat system. Instead of fluid button mashing or combo chaining, players must select moves from a menu. So it's like a turn-based RPG. What? I've never seen anything in WWE or AEW or TNA do like RPG moves. Quick, use an RKO. It's ridiculous. And this menu-based fighting system is the core of the problem. Wrestling should feel visceral and physical, but tag team wrestling just reduces it to clunky, time-consuming processes that kill the momentum of any match. Selecting a move often results in your opponent escaping or reversing it with little warning or logic, which removes any sense of strategy or excitement. The controls don't really help either. They're incredibly unresponsive, making even basic movement a hassle. Wrestlers slowly hobble around the ring Ric Flair style, and switching between teammates feels like trying to operate heavy machinery underwater. And the supposed hot tag mechanic where you bring in your partner to save the day rarely works, which just means it's an absolute mess. Now, graphically, again, I've got to be fair to it, it is early NES, but it is still very primitive. The wrestlers all look identical aside from colour swaps, and the animations are stiff and recycled. And despite its faults, Tag Team Wrestling does have a bizarre kind of retro charm. It is one of those so bad it's good titles for the nostalgic fans who grew up with it. But for most players, especially newcomers, it's simply a poorly aged relic of a genre that deserved better. In the broader library, it's often listed among the worst sports game ever made. Later wrestling games like Pro Wrestling and WWF WrestleMania would go on to prove the formula dramatically, making Tag Team Wrestling an early misstep quickly left in the dust. Friday the 13th. Now, Friday the 13th is one of the most baffling examples how a beloved movie franchise can go completely sideways in video game form. Like, this is developed by Atlus, by the way, and the game was supposed to capture the thrill of surviving Jason Voorhees' relentless slasher mayhem. Instead, it just delivered one of the most confusing and directionless experiences on the NES. Like, it sounds okay, like you control one of the 6 camp counselors, trying to survive 3 days at Camp Crystal Lake while protecting the campus from Jason, and then you can just go home, I don't know, have a barbecue, a beer, and say, job done, we survived that weekend of terror, Jason didn't get us, I wonder what happened to everyone else, dead. You explore the campgrounds, battle random enemies, and enter cabins to confront Jason when he appears, and he really just does appear out of nowhere. You're like, holy shit, where did you come from? Bloody ninja powers, that's not Jason Voorhees, he didn't become a Jedi. The idea of mixing survival horror with a day-night cycle was ambitious for the time, but the execution is a proper mess. Your combat is also a joke. Your first weapon? Rocks. Not even good rocks. They're terrible, slow, arching, and useless ones. Like, eventually you can upgrade to knives and torches, but even then, fights with Jason are just clumsy and unsatisfying. And to make things worse, as said, he can just destroy the whole team of counselors in minutes if you're not prepared, because he just appears randomly like the Jedi/ninja he is. Those enemies I was talking about earlier, well, they're zombies. Yep, zombies. Like, what? Why are the hordes of the undead in Friday the 13th? They serve no purpose just to slow you down and make you waste health. It's kind of like padding rather than actual game design. The game itself just looks horrible, and Jason's sprites as well just looks ugh. The soundtrack is repetitive and borderline maddening, with a chime that plays every time Jason attacks a cabin. It becomes less scary and more annoying the longer you play. Like, you're supposed to be terrified, but the only thing you have to fear is walking back through the same confusing paths over again. I'm like, oh, for God's sake, where am I fucking going? God, where is it? Where is it? Oh, I'm gone wrong way. Ridiculous. Over the years, Friday the 13th has earned cult status among retro game collectors and horror fans, mostly for how bizarre and terrible it is. And as always, if you do these sort of lists, it is often in those worst NES lists, and remains a case study of how not to adapt a movie into a game. Where's Waldo? Who thought, for the love of God, you got a children's book where the whole point is to find Waldo, or, again, that's the American thing I get, if you're me, where's Wally? It's Wally for me, okay? Same character, we just called him Wally. I don't know why, someone can put in the comments why that is. Everyone else called him Waldo, we called it Wally. So I'm going to call him Wally, alright? Where's Wally? So who the hell thought, you got this book, we got to find this Wally? And then, so, that'll make a great video game. Like, this was made by Bethesda. Bethesda of all people, swear to God. The aim of the game, well, of course, it's just to find Wally in a variety of locations. You're given a cursor and a time limit, and told to scan pixelated landscapes for the famously stripe-wearing traveller. No story, no context, no fighting, nothing. It's just click and pray you land on the right blob of pixels. And the main issue here is that resolution of the NES. The books are extremely detailed and colourful, like I've given it some to my daughter and she loves it. But the NES couldn't replicate that, like how the hell could it do that? Each scene looks like a digital smear of indistinct blobs. Like sometimes Wally is only a few pixels tall and often blends in with the background. And not because it's cleverly designed, just because the hardware couldn't do better. So I actually feel sorry for the NES on this one, because it's not like it couldn't do it. It couldn't do it, it was dying, it was like, so it's not its fault. Like the movement's sluggish and the cursor crawls around the screen, and when you actually do find Wally, you're met with a bland screen that says, you found him. And then you're on to the next round. What the absolute fook were you playing at? I have no idea who thought that was a good game. They added some mini games in, but they were stupid. I just don't see who thought that was a good idea. You clap in the board and go, let's make Where's Wally? You go, that's a great idea. The kids will love that. No, they didn't. It's just stupid. In reality, I'm not going to criticise the game too much, or the NES. I'm going to criticise Bethesda, because what were you doing? This is a forgettable mess that should have stayed in the pages of the book. Dr. Jekyll and Mr Hyde. Now, few games have baffled players like Dr. Jekyll and Mr Hyde, and this was released by Bandai. God forsake, first Bethesda, now Bandai. Loosely based on the classic novel, you control Dr. Jekyll as he walks through the town to get to his wedding, and that's where the sanity ends. As Dr. Jekyll, your only action is walking from left to right. You can't run, you barely jump, you swing a useless cane, but it has pathetic reach and rarely connects with enemies. And enemies are everywhere. Barking dogs, exploding bombs, angry townsfolk, all of whom seem to hate you for no clear reason. Yeah, it's a good point, why? You're just trying to get to your wedding, for God's sake. And to be honest, considering you're going for all this, you're not going to look very good when you get there. Look at your bride, and you've got smoke everywhere, you've been attacked by dogs. Surely you could have just got a car. I don't know, do they have cars back then? It's ridiculous. Taking damage fills a stress meter, and once it's full, Jekyll transforms into Mr. Hyde, the angry alter ego. As Mr. Hyde, you walk through a demonic parallel world and fight monsters using psychic blasts. That sounds pretty cool. Nope. If Hyde progresses further on the map than Jekyll did, you die instantly. The game never explains this, leading to endless unfair deaths. The entire structure of the game is broken. You're punished for playing aggressively, but also for playing passively. There's no consistent logic here. Sometimes you die from enemies, other times from unknown triggers. Emotional damage. It's as if the game actively resents you for trying to understand it. There's no constant logic here. Sometimes you die from enemies, other times from unknown triggers. It's as if the game actively resents you for trying to understand it. Visually, yeah, the game is an absolute eyesore. Jekyll's world is brown and bland, whereas Hyde's world is grotesque in all the wrong ways. It's just horrible. Not even creepy or atmospheric, just confusing and unappealing. Despite its many flaws, the game has achieved a strange cult following, largely due to the legendary angry video game nerd reviewing it that tore it apart. His frustration with the game helped cement its status as quintessential worst game ever. It's not remembered just for being bad, but for actively being unpleasant to play. It breaks the rules of logic, design, and fairness, and in doing so becomes a cautionary tale for all future developers. The Uncanny XMen. If you were a fan of the X-Men in the late 80s and you got your hands on the Uncanny X-Men for the NES, chances are you experienced one of gaming's greatest betrayals. Now, I loved the X-Men. I was a big fan of the 90s series, obviously, because I'm cool, and I didn't mind the comics as well. But this superhero adventure was more of a cruel endurance test. You take control of iconic X-Men like Wolverine, Cyclops, Storm, and Colossus to battle your way through enemy film stages and stop Magneto. Again, that sounds really cool. Unfortunately, this is where all the promise dies. The game throws you into a series of generic missions with barely any instruction, almost no story. In fact, the game doesn't even tell you how to start the final level. You had to find a code hidden on the cartridge label. What the absolute fooky duke? What? Imagine if you'd emulated this. You're screwed. Is there a way of even doing this if you emulated it? Unless you've got the code online. You're screwed. Each level is a repetitive maze of similar looking rooms, filled with the same enemies and respawn constantly. Objectives are vague or non-existent, and the map layout is confusing, making navigating a chore. You'll often find yourself wondering aimlessly whether you're actually progressing or backtracking, and that is not fun at all. Hit detection is spotty, and your attacks don't always land when they should, which means many enemies can make multiple hits to defeat, even when you're using a character like Colossus, who should be smashing them in one blow, or Wolverine really should be stabbing them to death, but whatever, we can get through that. Special powers exist, but they're inconsistent, weak, or difficult to control. Adding insult to injury is the AI of your second partner. If you don't have a second player, which I wouldn't because my little brother was probably too young then, the CPU controls your partner, and it's worse than useless. Your AI teammate walks into danger, ignores enemies, and frequently gets stuck, leaving you to fend off hordes solo while babysitting them. Wow, it's like Ashley from Resident Evil 4. Visually, the game is also abysmal. Characters barely resemble their comic book counterparts. Like Wolverine, for God's sake, just looks like a brown and yellow lump. The Uncanny X-Men is universally recognised as a disgrace to the X-Men brand. It's a classic example of a licensed game rushed to market with little regard for the quality or fan expectations. It failed to deliver even a basic sense of fun, and its only legacy has been a textbook case of wasted potential. Bad Street Brawler. Yes, this was released by Mattel, of all people. Well, it was under the Mindscape label, but still it was done by Mattel. And it's one of the few NES games to officially use the Power Glove. Again, it sounds really cool using the Power Glove, but it's painfully awkward and undeniably goofy. You play as Duke Davis, a muscle-bound, sunglasses-wearing street brawler who punched his way through endless enemies including punks, grannies, dogs, and circus clowns. Bit harsh punching the grannies, but whatever. That sentence alone should tell you what kind of game this is. A surreal cartoon brawler that somehow manages to be both ridiculous and boring. The gameplay is painfully repetitive. Duke has a small selection of moves and only 2 are available per level. This means you're often stuck using the same kick and punch for an entire stage, only to unlock 2 new ones later, which then get swapped out again. What? There's no combat system, no strategy, and no excitement. The controls are floaty and unresponsive, and Duke's attacks have bizarre hitboxes that often miss entirely. Enemies don't react when hit, removing any sense of impact or feedback. It's like punching mannequins that sometimes fall over, or punching an Irishman and he goes the other way. Look, I can say that I'm part Irish, leave me alone. The level design is virtually non-existent as well. You walk from left to right on repetitive city streets, occasionally jumping over obstacles or facing a slightly stronger enemy. And that's it. There's no variations in environments, no power-ups of interest, and no compelling reason to keep going. And again, I can sit there and go, oh, it's an early NES game, you gotta give it some chance. Well no, we had Streets of Rage on the Master System, we had Double Dragon, they were decent games. So this is an absolute disgrace. The game is bright and cartoonish, but not in a good way. Characters are often goofy to the point of absurdity, and the same backgrounds as I said earlier just keep repeating themselves. And the art style just feels like a rejected Saturday morning cartoon. Minus the charm, because I love my Saturday day cartoons. Bad Street Brawler has a strange place in NES history. It's bad, but in a campy way that some fans actually enjoy. But still, no mistake, it's a fundamentally broken game that squanders its own potential and becomes more annoying the longer you play it. And finally, let's do another wrestling game, shall we? Tag Team Match Muscle. Now, this was based on the Japanese anime Kinnikuman. I think I got that correctly. Tag Team Match Muscle. Now, this was developed by Tosei and published by Bandai. While it is nostalgic for some people, it's a bare-bones, poorly made title that barely qualifies as a wrestling game. And that's a shame because, well, I didn't so much watch the anime of this. I watched the sequel anime, Ultimate Muscle, which I got on Fox Kids, because that was awesome. And then I found out about the prequel with his dad. Honestly, watched Ultimate Muscle. It's funny, it's stupid, and I love it. And now when I see beef, I always think of the cow song. Leave me alone, that was my childhood. You select a pair of miniature wrestlers from the Muscle roster and square off in a 2-on-2 tag team battles. Each wrestler is supposed to have different strengths, but in reality they all play almost identically. The only difference is the colour of their sprites and the occasional random power-up. Speaking of combat, the game just revolves around one move, the flying headbutt. That's it. No grapples, no throws, no yoink finishes. You mash the same button over and over again for the same attack over and over, and hope the AI doesn't counter it. It's an astonishingly shallow, even by early NES standards. Now unfortunately, this gameplay loop quickly becomes mind-numbing, and there's little to no strategy involved, and the match just feels a race to spam the headbutt before the opponent does. The tag team element is barely utilised, as switching between partners provides no real tactical advantage. Now I know it's a basic game, but the graphics are primitive even back in those days. Wrestlers are tiny, the ring is in a bland square, and the background is just a solid colour. There's no crowd, no intro animation, and no flair. Just a lifeless arena where muscle-bound toys go to headbutt each other in silence. One of the few interesting features is that a random power-up that sometimes floats into the ring. If your wrestler touches it, they perform a special move. Now this could have added excitement if it didn't happen so randomly and rarely feels like a glitch more than a feature. Despite being one of the earliest wrestling games on the NES, Tag Team Muscle has aged horribly. It's simplistic to a fault, lacks any depth, and even fans of the toy line anime are going to struggle to defend it today. It's the kind of game you try once, chuckle at it, and never play it again. Which is a shame because Ultimate Muscle is so cool. And that's it! 7 of the worst NES games ever made. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you think I deserve it, please leave a like and subscribe for more content. And as I said, there are plenty of more terrible games that I need to talk about, so put them in the comments below and I'll make another video. Until then, I'll see you all in 3 more days for another video. You all take care of yourself. My name's been Danny. Bye bye.